Well, I want to welcome everybody to the first virtual meeting of the Sackville Town Council. Unfortunately, this is how COVID reality has turned things out for us. And we've tried a conference line once, that didn't work well. So now we're trying the new Microsoft Teams software. For those who haven't used this before, please know there'll be 4 people on the screen at one time, and the video is going to change depending upon who's speaking. Whoever speaks next will come up onto the screen, and so the last 4 speakers will always be on your stream. I want to welcome everybody who's watching this from home, and I want to welcome all the staff and council who have made it out here tonight. Please be aware that this is our first crack, and we may have some technical issues arise, but we'll deal with them as we go through this. All right, to start us off, I'd like to just run through a roll call so that everybody knows who is here. Obviously, Mayor Hyam is here. Deputy Mayor Akin, can you please say a couple of words and pop up on our screen?
Yes, I am here and ready to go.
Thank you. Councillor Tower.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm here and ready to rock and roll.
Thank you much. Councillor Michaud.
Yes, Your Worship, I am here and participating in the new normal, I guess.
Excellent. Councillor Evans.
Yeah, I'm here joining you all virtually from the undisclosed location.
Yeah, it is black in the background there. Councillor O'Neill, please.
Yes, I'm here, Your Worship, wishing everybody and hoping we all stay well.
Thank you. Councillor Black.
I am here and saying hello to all of Sackville.
Councillor Butcher.
I am also here virtually and looking forward to our first virtual council meeting.
Councillor Finney.
I am here, Your Worship, and welcome to everyone from Sackville who's watching the stream.
Thank you. I'd like to welcome our new CAO, Mr. Burke. Are you please weigh in?
Yeah, I'm here, Your Worship, members of council. Thank you. I'm looking forward to my first meeting.
Thank you. Matt Pride, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here and I'm ready to do this.
All right. Ron Kelly Spurls.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I'm also ready. Thank you.
Mr. Acton. Wayne Acton, you are muted there. You are muted. Could you join us?
Sorry, Your Worship. First one to make the mistake, right? I'm ready to go.
Thank you. Todd Cole.
Yes, Your Worship. I'm here, ready to go.
And welcome to another new face, Mr. Rob McLean.
Yes, Your Worship. Thank you. I'm here.
Thank you. Craig Bowser, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here and ready to go.
Mr. Beal. All right. Elizabeth Hartling.
Thank you, Your Worship. I am here as well.
Thank you. Becky Goodwin.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yes, I am here.
Thank you. Lori Bickford.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm here as well.
And Town Clerk Donna Beal.
Good evening. Thank you, Your Worship. Welcome, Sackville residents.
Thank you all. So we'll now call the meeting to order, and you've all had the agenda for several days. Is there a motion to approve that agenda? Oh, who's that?
Sorry.
So on the motion to approve agenda, have I heard any councillor, please?
This is the Deputy Mayor. I'll move that.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Akin.
This is Councillor Michaud. I'll second it.
Thank you. Councillor Michaud seconds the motion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, please note. Agenda is approved. Request of anybody having a disclosure of interest on any of the items in this tonight. Is there any disclosures to make? Thank you. We'll take that as none. We move to item 4, regular council meeting of March the 9th. Page 3 in your package. You've all had a few days to look at that. Is there anybody got any comments or a motion?
Councillor Evans, I'm prepared to move the adoption of the minutes as circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Is there a seconder?
Councillor Tower, second that.
Sorry, that was Councillor Tower, was it?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion is carried. Special council meeting, April 6th, on page 14 of your package.
Well, I'm Bill Evans again. I'm prepared to move the adoption of the minutes as circulated.
Thank you, Councillor Evans.
Councillor O'Neill, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor O'Neill. Question?
Question.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. One more, special meeting of council closed in camera, April 16th, 2020.
As Deputy Mayor, I'll move those minutes.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor. Seconder, please.
Councillor Evans, I'll second those.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Question?
Question.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you. Item 5, business arising from the minutes. Does anyone have any arising business? Hearing none, we will move on to Southeast Regional Services Commission. And I can speak very quickly. There has not been a commission meeting for quite some time. There was an executive meeting, but it was did not involve any decision makings that of any note for us. That is continued. We are not sure when the next meeting may take place, and if or how that might take place. So no real report for the Regional Service Commission from myself. I don't know if anybody has any question for that. Okay, we will move to planning. Ms. Bickford, on page 16 of your packages, folks.
Thank you, Your Worship and members of council. I'd like to report that in the month of April, 4 permits were issued. This brings our year-to-date permits for Sackville to 8, with a total construction value of $386,000. This time last year, there were 12 permits issued. However, the construction value is only at $98,000. The Planning Review and Adjustment Committee did meet for their first virtual Planning Review and Adjustment Committee meeting. However, there were no applications that involved Sackville requests at that particular meeting. Other things that I just want to note is that the planning department does, of course, stay open. We are restricting direct access between staff as well as clients. So there is some limitations there. However, you know, certainly call in. We will work with the clients to make sure that permitting and any applications are not delayed. And we would certainly prefer electronic means, but those that are unable to work electronically, we will accommodate through the process. And just note that a significant amount of time was spent during the month trying to organize and set up how we would operate our virtual meetings, especially considering the majority of ours are public. So that concludes a summary of my report. If there's any questions.
Yes, any questions on the report? Good news is the assessed values is surprising to me. Is there any particular reason for that?
It would just be a couple, there was a new home in there, so there are larger projects than what we've seen last year. Last year, this time, they were much smaller, probably decks, accessory buildings, those construction of that nature, so.
Excellent. Okay, no other questions? Thank you, Ms. Bickford. So we will move into proclamation for the next one. And that is my opportunity as the weather is getting warmer and people are getting outside more often. It's appropriate that this is the time of year where we talk about Lyme Awareness Month. So whereas Lyme disease is one of the fastest growing infections in Canada And whereas the population of ticks, the prime cause of Lyme disease, is growing and expanding in New Brunswick, and whereas the tick season is already also extended due to climate change, and whereas there is an increasing number of New Brunswickers who are suffering from Lyme disease, and whereas Lyme disease is not diagnosed and treated early, can become a debilitating condition, causing extreme fatigue, cardiac and nervous system disorders, and/or arthritic symptoms. And whereas all New Brunswick would benefit by being more aware of Lyme disease, how it is contracted, what the symptoms associated with the disease are, and how to get prompt medical care needed to avoid illness and suffering. Therefore, I, John Hyam, Mayor of the Town of Sackville, hereby proclaim May 2020 be designated Lyme Awareness Month in the Town of Sackville. Thank you for that. And any comments on the proclamation, anyone? Hearing none, we go to the mayor's report. A lot's happened since we last spoke, but I'll just give you a couple of items. One is the hospital group that we put together some time ago decided that they would stand down for a bit and monitor how events unfolded. And the rural mayors have taken a bit of an abeyance between their calls. We should have one in the next week or two, actually, to just check in with everybody. All of them are of course, totally involved in their COVID measures in each of their communities now. I do note that we did have an article today in the Times Transcript with it from an interview last week, and some of the questions that are being raised around health lessons through this COVID are, I believe, very integral to the questions around our hospital that were raised earlier. So I think there's an opportunity now for us to make some pretty solid presentations to the province about what their proposals might be in terms of improving public health in the future. One update is that Kent County was in touch with us about some of the research that we were doing, and they have engaged Masters of Health from the UDM as an intern to do a two-pronged process for them. One of mapping out what services exist in the Kent County Hospital catchment area, and also to interview a whole variety of people to say what are those services and what's missing and what do you think is required for appropriate health services in that area. Community supported education reform is continuing. There's a lot of things going on with that. However, it seems that the less and less it's going to take place within the department itself, and there may be another structure coming forward in the near future. The Tantramar COVID Task Force, I'm sure many of you have heard about that, created by the MLA, the mayors of the area, and Chief Knockwood of Fort Folly, is well underway. They're doing very well at gathering people and getting services out, focusing on food security first. Businesses has just begun, mental health services and awareness, physical health, gathering donations for all of the services that is going on, public communications, and more recently an attempt to try to get students involved in some of these efforts as part of the opportunity for them to develop, because so many summer jobs are being lost to them. I would like to note that we've done pretty well in terms of the declaration which was made, which became the law for how we had to conduct ourselves. And in that declaration, there were two things that were to be top priorities, and that was for the local governments to deliver on essential services and to ensure that all of the staff and most as citizens as well would meet the health priorities as they were outlined. So that immediately meant that we had to adjust a lot of our practices, because you can't social distance in a truck with 5 other people. You have a difficult time with lots of our regular jobs that required some changes to how they were deployed. And in order to continue with essential services and to balance the protection of health, we did undertake a variety of structures around our staff and around the public facilities and deep cleaning of them all time after time, shift after shift, to be sure that people were as well protected as we possibly could. And tonight, just to note that the other thing is, of course, we can't gather, so now we are looking at virtual meetings. This is our second crack at it. As we noted, there was a phone call one that we didn't like that much. This is a new opportunity through the software system. We've been looking at a variety of them then, and this one is the one that appears to meet the technical criteria best, so we'll see how this goes. We'll probably have a couple of interruptions here and there through the night, but hopefully we'll see this, and I understand it's being live streamed right now to whoever might want to jump in on and watch us. So finally, I guess I would like to make it clear that we have a huge debt to a bunch of people who have really gone through the ringer on this COVID-19. And of course, they are many of our staff, first of all, firefighters, the police, health services folks, many of the private sector people who work in grocery stores and supplies that are still open and working long hours and close to people. And of course, all the volunteers and the organizations that have got together to ensure that everybody's getting fed, that everybody's being looked after as best possible. So we've had a wonderful response in the last couple of months to helping out those most vulnerable amongst us. And I really want to congratulate the whole community for what they've been doing and how they've conducted themselves. There's a reason why we have flattened the curve in the province, and this place has been a harbinger of why that is so. I'll take questions on anything on the mayor's report if you'd like. Hearing none, it pleases me to introduce the new CAO in his first council meeting, and I would turn it over for the CAO report, please, Mr. Burke.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship, and members of council. I guess I want to start by saying thank you to all of you, all of our staff, and certainly over the last month, I've had a lot of really welcoming and encouraging words from members of the community on taking over the reins as the CAO, and you've all really made this this transition really seamless. And so I just want to thank you for all for your help and cooperation with the transition. So as you've alluded to, Your Worship, it's been an incredibly busy month for staff as we've been throughout the organization with the developing COVID-19 pandemic. We've been adjusting and adapting to the local state of emergency that has continued since about the middle of March. So thankfully, our employees, our entire workforce, and to the best of our knowledge, the community has been safe and following the advice of the Public Health Agency of Canada and the Chief Medical Officer of Health for the province of New Brunswick. So that certainly worked to our advantage. I think you'll see it's evident in the various reports tonight that it has not been business as usual for the town. And I think that that shows itself throughout the entire organization. But despite the unprecedented times, we've continued to deliver essential services to the community. So I really need to thank the entire workforce. Really, their commitment and dedication to the community, it never fails to amaze me. So there's been a few obviously bigger ticket items that we've been working on over the last month. We've been meeting as a management team. We've been meeting regularly to kind of keep on top of the federal, provincial, and local updates. The logistics for this type of meeting, as you all know very well, this is kind of outside of our comfort zone, but you've all stepped up to the plate and kind of adapted to the technology and to allow us to continue on with our regular business, which I know the citizens are gratefully going to appreciate. And then I guess just to round up, I guess the last month, certainly keeping on top of the financial implications of COVID-19. I know Michael and Liz have both been busy with what that means to the entire corporation. So, but despite the I guess unprecedented times, it does give me hope, I guess, that a lot of our projects are continuing despite the pandemic. You'll see in some of the reports our marketing plans continuing, our tree planting program with CN is continuing. I know engineering and public works have been working away on a variety of tenders, and that's all important work, as we know the economy is going to need to get going when we pull out of this, which as the mayor alluded to, we certainly have some positive signs. And then lastly, Your Worship, members of council, we've had a number of staff changes that I think need to be recognized. You introduced Rob McLean on the line. Rob is our new superintendent of public works, who's replacing Todd Hicks. I want to thank Barry Hicks. I don't think there's any relation to Barry to Todd, but Barry, as you know, returned to the town after a short period of retirement to really step in and give us a hand in that transition process for Rob. And then lastly, I just want to acknowledge the retirement of Kathy Best from our Public Works Department on March 27th. We wish Kathy all the best in her retirement. She's been a long-standing fixture out at our Public Works Department. And then finally, Your Worship, I want to say a huge congratulations and sincere thank you to Phil Handerhan, our outgoing Chief Administrative Officer. Phil's provided exceptional leadership and support to the entire management team and staff. And he's been, as you all know, he's been dedicated to this community from day one. So I think I speak for all of us that we wish him in his retirement nothing but the best. I can tell you, for me personally, he's been a huge mentor and a friend, and we're going to miss him around Town Hall.
Thank you, Mr.
So, Your
Worship.
Worship, I'd be happy to take any questions.
Yes, any questions on the CAO report?
Councillor Evans here. I have a comment. I would like to take this opportunity to welcome Mr. Burke to his new capacity and publicly congratulate him for being chosen to be Phil's successor. And I'm really pleased by this, and I'm confident that he's going to, and he's already demonstrated that he's going to continue to do a fine job in his new capacity. I also want to take this opportunity to thank his predecessor and acknowledge how grateful I am to him for what he brought to the position for the last 7 years. The professionalism, stability, and wise stewardship I am personally and on behalf of the town grateful for. And in these troubled times, he has ensured a smooth transition. So we went from when he arrived, we were not in a great place. We hadn't had a good track record with CAOs. And after 7 years of stability, we have, even in these difficult times, we've smoothly transitioned to a new CAO. He has been especially good to us. Phil has. He gave us lots of notice, and he extended his departure date so that he could help us. And then I don't know if he knew what he got into, but he spent a lot of time when he could have been out golfing, helping us deal with COVID. So, and in addition, I just thought of this, he actually hired his successor, although not to his current capacity. So I want to thank Phil and just say that while he's gone, he's not forgotten. And then close by saying that I feel like we're in really good hands with Jamie, and I look forward to working with him in his new capacity.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Any other comments or questions on the CAO report? Okay, hearing none, we will move into finance and administration. I think, Deputy Mayor, you're going to speak to this?
I am, Your Worship. I'll first move the bills and payrolls. I move that council accept the bills and payroll for the month of March 2020 as follows. General government, $276,639.04. General capital, $214,495.91. Utility government, $41,326.49. Utility capital, $3,415.36. And salaries, $200,390.89.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Councillor Tower, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Tower. Seconds the motion. Question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Deputy Mayor.
Okay, I move that council accept the bills and payrolls for the month of April 2020 as follows. General government, $125,755.14. General capital, $67,755.99. Utility government, $40,734.66. Utility capital, $24,053.40. And salaries, $311,977.40.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken.
Councillor Tower, I'd like to second that one too, please.
Thank you, Councillor Tower. Question?
I have a question, Your Worship.
Yes?
It's for Mike. If you could possibly explain briefly the difference between the figures on the first month and the second month, just because of quite a difference, that's all. Very good. Thank you, Michael.
Thank you. Question?
Question.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
Thank you. I appreciate you.
You're going to give that a try right now, right?
Yeah, I am going to try this. Apparently I was not being heard through the live stream as a result of it is my computer that is performing the live stream, so councillors and staff could hear me, but the live stream could not. So to answer the question from Councillor Tower, I guess to repeat myself a second time, for the public is the month of March, of course, pays a lot of the February bills, and then the month of April pays the month of March bills. So when we moved into COVID, of course, a lot of operations were reduced between March and April. So therefore, the reduced expenses when it comes when it comes to paying the general government, general capital, utility government, and utility capital. The salaries, of course, are higher in April versus March. 200,000 in March versus 311,000 in April, and with that, there was 3 pays in the month of April and 2 pays in the month of March. It's hard to repeat what you said the first time, but I do have a notification that it has worked, and this is going through the live stream, so I'll have to remember to do that when I need to speak.
I thank you again for both.
Thank you, and thank you for discovering that bug, and I'm waiting to address it next time. So any question, or can I move for, we have a mover and a seconder? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. I think you have another? No?
Yes,
Just-
Worship. These are the financial report.
Yes.
Financial statements are included to the end of April 2020. April 24th, 2020. The cutoff date was early due to the council meeting date, and the remainder of April will be included in May's report. The same holds true for accounts payable. At this point in time, financials seem to be relatively on track, but we're still reviewing what the overall picture will be as a result of COVID-19. Audit work continued in March, with it being delayed as a result of the pandemic. Auditors continue to work on the 2019 financial statements and will look to bring this forward in June. Normal operations. The debenture required for 2019 borrowing was submitted to the Municipal Finance Corporation prior to the pandemic, and the debenture issue has now been closed. The debenture is for $340,000 and for all 4 utility capital projects. Water bills for the period of January to March 2020 have been delayed as a result of the pandemic. They are scheduled to go out the week of May 11th to 15th. To date, we have undertaken several initiatives in order to help the citizens of Sackville. Finance liaison councillors are bringing forward motion on this tonight, with the recommendations coming forward saving water and sewer customers money during these times. Over $40,000 will be put back into the taxpayers' pockets, with the recommendations for the funds coming out of expected year-end transfer into the capital reserve fund. The issuance of dog tags for the year 2020 has been suspended until further notice. Once we can issue dog tags again, a 30 to 60-day window will be allowed for people to register without any late fees. The bylaw enforcement report and animal control reports are included for March 2020. April and May 2020 reports will be provided in June. During March, when COVID-19 restrictions were put in place, we moved these two services to critical services only. And under bylaw, Corey Springer has taken paternity leave until late June for the birth of his new baby, and we have contracted with Paul Embry to provide this service. A motion will be presented this evening to appoint Paul to be able to enforce our bylaws, and we'd like to congratulate Corey on the birth of his child. And that's the report, Your Worship. I'll entertain any questions, or more probably Mr. Beal will.
Mr. Bill, we did receive that debenture, did we not, today or yes, last week?
Yes, Your Worship, we did receive that debenture. It was signed today, and will be sent off, and that will go into our bank account late this month, I believe was a date on it. I am running into a slight technical difficulty here. It's not going back to the Teams meeting, so I am trying to get that fixed as we're going, but I believe everybody can hear what Councillor Aiken had said.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions, comments on the report? Okay.
Councillor Aiken, or Deputy Mayor, can I have two motions? Enforcement of its bylaws by appointing an appropriate person to such position. Now therefore be it resolved that the following person is hereby authorized, designated, and appointed to act for and on council's behalf in order to properly enforce all of the municipality's bylaws pursuant to the municipality's authority outlined below. Paul Embry, effective May 4th, 2020. Be it further resolved that the above noted authorization and designation and appointment is subject to the following. Sections 133, 134, 135, and 136 of the Community Planning Act in order to enter upon property, issue orders, seek orders from the Court of the Queen's Bench, and commence proceedings in provincial court. Sections 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 72, 80, 128, 129, 130, 131, 132, 133, 135, 139, 144, 150, 151, 159, 153, and 195 of the Local Governance Act in order to serve tickets, commence proceedings in provincial court, enter upon property and issue notice of dangerous or unsightly premises. Section 14 of the Police Act in order to serve tickets and properly execute their role as a bylaw enforcement officer. Be it further resolved that the above noted authorization, designation, and appointment shall continue until the person ceases to be employed or contracted by the municipality or until the appointment is limited or rescinded by council. So moved.
Moved by Deputy Mayor Aiken. Is there a seconder?
Councillor Michaud, I'll second that.
Thank you, Councillor Michaud.
Your Worship, I'm just going to interrupt for one more second. I just got to switch something off and then back on before you call for vote. No, go ahead. It's not working.
No luck. And so just to put this in context a little bit, if Deputy Mayor or Mr. Beal, would you like to speak to the reason why Mr. Embry is being endowed with the authority of the bylaw officer?
I can do that, Your Worship. This is to cover the period of time when Corey Springer is off on paternity leave. And so it will be, I think, through to the end of June.
And as people may know, Mr. Embry is a former bylaw officer of the town and has a background in all this. So are there any question on this motion?
Question.
Call the question?
Yeah.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Motion is carried.
I move the council acknowledge and support the following items that have been put in place and will remain in place until staff determine we are able to resume operations and to which have been previously reported to council amid the COVID-19 outbreak. One is prepayment of all services such as water, turn off, on off, new service installation and culverts are not required. 2, no shut off of water sewer accounts for failing to pay until at least June 30th, 2020. 3, water sewer interest has not been charged for the month of March 2020. 4, meters for sales will not be read by staff but completed remotely and or by the resident. 5, dog tags being required are suspended until further notice, and the council also approves the following additional measures. 1, that water bills have a 60-day due date, a senior discount date rather than the normal 30-day. That the $20 quarterly sewer treatment charge be waived for the period of January 1st to March 31st, 2020, thereby giving approximately $40,000 back to customers through rebates on their water and sewer bill, and that interest for the month of April and May be waived on all overdue accounts. So moved.
Second that motion.
Thank you. Anyone, any wish to ask question? Perhaps, Deputy Mayor, perhaps again, you could put a little bit of context to this in terms of why we're doing it at this time. Some of these measures were taken earlier. We've just been expressing the support that we had informally expressed.
Yes, Your Worship. All these measures were have been put in place by staff, and it's just a way to give people a bit of a break during this fairly tumultuous time. And we hope the dates we set in place are good, that we'd be getting back to some semblance of normal by then. But we'll just have to wait and see on that one. I don't know if Mr. Beal has anything to add.
Yeah, basically, what I will say is that we looked at putting into the reserve fund, of course, for future lagoon upgrades, and what we've looked at for the first quarter would be to not do so. That would put about, as noted, an motion about $40,000 back into the taxpayers' pockets during these tough times. Once this motion is completed, I would ask for maybe a 60-second pause while I try to get the cameras back onto the Teams meeting versus having it continuously on me for the live stream.
Question?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. We'll take that abeyance for you, Mr. Beal, if you will try to pull them back in, please. Excellent, well done, thank you. Those are the technical glitches that we warned everybody about, and we just had one. That's good, though. Didn't take long to figure it out. Thank you very much. It would have if it had been me doing that. Tourism, is that it, Deputy Mayor Aitken, for Finance and Admin?
Yes, Your Worship, that's it.
Thank you. Tourism, Councillor Michaud, are you speaking to that tonight?
Yes, I am, Your Worship. Thank you very much. The tourism report is on page 31 of the package. I'll just highlight a few items in here. First of all, the public consultation sessions on updating the town's tourism strategy, which were to have been held on March 1st, April 2nd, have been canceled because of COVID-19. We will look at rescheduling or scheduling new meetings once it is possible. All other programs are on hold for now, and everything has been canceled until at least the end of June. Unfortunately, this also includes the Border Town Festival. The opening date of the VIC and bringing in students is on hold for the time being until we have further direction from the province. The Craft Gallery have indicated they will not open any earlier than June the 1st. We have been pursuing a trail infrastructure grant application with the province of New Brunswick since the fall and our final stages. It's for putting a new trail in the London extension in the Waterfowl Park. Also, some other work is beginning again on the sign capital upgrades, which have been on hold as we have been focusing more on essential services. And we'll be working with contractors and will require that any work undertaken is done with the appropriate social distancing. The Sackville Visitors Guides, English and French, have been sent to the printer, and we've anticipated having hard copies in hand by May 14th. English version is online. Unavoidably, there will be many events in the guide that will be canceled, but we have put a note on it for people to double check things. Because of all of the closures and cancellations of events like Saltscape Expo, we've ordered half our usual number of guides for the year. Some important information, we continue to gather information for or from local businesses about their hours, services, special programs, hours specific to seniors, delivery services, and it's regularly updated on the town's homepage, sackville.com/2020/03/updates-from-local-businesses. Also put together a list of canceled or postponed events, and it will be updated on the homepage regularly. Again, that can be found sackville.com/2020/04/update-on-events-cancel-do-2-COVID-19. We've also put together a list of resources for individuals and businesses, which are also updated regularly. Also, we are continuing to monitor and discuss traffic in the Waterfowl Park. Overall, right now, it appears to be working well. And the manager will be joining the Tantramar COVID-19 Task Force Group on Economic and Business Impact Action. And actually, as a citizen, I've also volunteered to be on that group. And that's all I have. If there's any questions.
Any questions on the tourism report? Hearing none, there is no motion in tourism, Councillor Michaud, correct?
No, we have no motions. Thank you, Your Worship.
Thank you. So no questions. We will move on to public property and facilities. Thank you, Councillor Michaud. And Councillor Evans, are you speaking to this?
I am, Your Worship. The report's on page 33 of the package, and it's been so long since we've given a report that in the time period covered, town staff were still doing snow removal when this report was started. And in the report, it says that winter conditions have taken a toll on the streets, so the town has been out using the cold patch to fix major potholes over the last couple of months. The transportation department continues to deal with essential services such as collecting garbage throughout the town and the maintenance repairs to roads, streets, sidewalks, ditches, storm sewer systems, and deal with requests from residents on an as-needed basis. The mechanics continue to do maintenance, and they've started to remove winter control equipment from trucks and the loader over the last couple of months to prepare all equipment for summer operations in the weeks to come. The utility department continues to obtain weekly water samples and perform daily chlorine residuals as part of our approval to operate our water distribution system. And as well, they collect wastewater samples from our lagoons as part of our approval to operate our wastewater sewer system. This work also includes the inspections of our lagoons and weekly inspections of our 14 lift stations. And in the month of April, the utility department completed some maintenance and repairs to the Crescent Street lift station due to a pump malfunction. Custodial staff are continuing to perform daily cleaning of the town hall and public works facility, where they're focusing on disinfection, cleaning of all areas of the two facilities to help prevent the spread of COVID-19 to our staff who continue to perform essential services. The engineering department has issued tender 2020-06, asphalt resurfacing of various streets. During the month of March, the tender closed on March 27th with 4 bids being received. The lowest tender was from McDonald Paving and Construction Limited of Moncton, and a motion will be coming forward later this evening. The engineering department issued tender 2020-04 for 1 new 20-ton tilt tag-along trailer with air ramps during the month of March. The tender was closed on March 25th with 2 tender bids being received. The lowest tender was from Valley Equipment in Salisbury, and a motion will be coming forward during the meeting tonight. The engineering department continues to work on several capital budget projects which were approved for 2020, and we will continue to work on the tender packages for these projects and equipment, and will be issuing tenders upon their completion. All tenders will be brought to future council meetings for council's review and consideration. And the Engineering and Public Works Department would like to acknowledge the retirement of our administrative assistant, Kathy Best, on March 27th. As already noted, Kathy has been working for 40 years for the town, my whole lifetime. And we would like to thank her for many years of service in various capacities throughout the organization and wish her all the best in her retirement and any future endeavors. And from the Tantramar Veterans Memorial Civic Center, the Civic Center was closed to the public and the ice was removed in early March due to COVID-19, ending all rentals for the season without groups finishing their schedules. A small amount of private rental was issued refunds for their canceled ice times and room bookings, and most groups have accounts. So they were only billed for rental, the rental that they actually used. Staff disinfected the entire Civic Center once the building was closed to the public. The building continues to be sanitized where staff are using the building. Staff have finished preparing the mezzanine for the new and improved Sports Wall of Fame, as well as some minor necessary maintenance of the building. The parks are being monitored daily, 7 days a week, in accordance with requirements put in place by the province of New Brunswick due to COVID-19. This is being done so the trails in our parks can remain open for citizens. And I, for one, am grateful that that happens, and I hope everybody continues to cooperate so we can keep it open. Staff have closed all public washrooms to ensure safety. Staff have made walking trails one way on most trails in the Waterfowl Park and two-way traffic where the trails are wide enough to comply with physical distancing. The plan for the park continues to evolve and staff continue to make changes to routes and signage, as well as changes to some rules such as no running or stopping on boardwalks to keep the flow moving. The outhouses in the Waterfowl Park will remain closed for now. Beach Hill Park is being used. Physical distancing is being adhered to. I went out and test drove it on the weekend and I can confirm this. The water in the outhouses will continue to remain closed until further notice. Staff are doing repairs in the parks with the priority being public safety. Staff continue to work on tenders for capital project for 2020 and will be looking to put them out to tender in the months to come. And as been mentioned earlier, the CN tree planting program will continue over the next several months. The contractor will be following all physical distancing requirements. And the final item, one that is of particular interest to me because I didn't know you could do such a thing, and I'll ask Mr. Cole to explain this. Staff are working with Woodpecker Tree Care to inoculate some of Sackville's large elms for Dutch elm disease. So before I get to the motions, perhaps Mr. Cole could explain how we inoculate trees. It sounds wonderful.
Mr. Cole.
Thank you, Councilor Evans, Mr. Mayor. Actually, Kevin Anderson approached us about this project. Essentially what he does, he bores a small hole into the tree. He puts some type of a fungicide into the tree that helps keep the bugs and fungus off the tree to keep it, make it survive a lot longer. We're trying to maintain these trees for as long as we can. They're not going to last forever, but at least it'll give us some time to get some of the other trees to grow up to be more mature before these ones do go.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Cole. Any other questions on the report?
Your Worship, it's Councillor Finney, if I may.
Please.
Todd, can you tell me, as a matter of fact, is this the first time that we've done the inoculation of the elm trees?
Yes, Councillor Finney, to my knowledge, it has, unless it was before my time. It's the first time it's been brought up in the past. It is a bit experimental, but as far as I know, Sackville, this is the first time we've tried it.
I just could tell you that they've been doing it at the university for about 10 to 15 years now. And it's worked pretty good as far as I can see so far. So just heads up to you to let you know.
Perfect, thank you.
You're welcome.
Good to hear. Any other questions on the report?
I have two motions.
Yes, Councillor Evans, please.
I move that council award tender number 2020-05, the new 20-ton tag-along to the lowest bidder, Valley Equipment Limited, in the amount of $37,260, HST included.
Moved by Councillor Evans. Is there a seconder?
Counselor Butcher, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher.
And perhaps we could get the engineer to explain a little bit about this, because it's my understanding that, or maybe the treasurer, it's a little over budget.
Mr. Acton, would you like to respond?
I can, your worship, and members of council. Yes, we did receive 2 bids. We had more interest during the tendering process, but during the tender opening, we just received 2 bids, fairly competitive. The budget for the tag-along under the capital budget 2020 was $33,080, HST included. So we are slightly over budget, slightly over $4,000 over budget. However, we have a fleet budget for additional equipment, and we're hopeful that those other tenders will come in under budget. And if they don't, then we have to make some decisions at that time on the additional fleet equipment that we tender. Okay. I'd happy to answer any other questions, your worship.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Councillor Michaud here, your worship. I'm just curious how many tender packages were picked up?
I believe there were 5. I believe there were 5 council packages or tender packages picked up, and during the tendering process.
Any other questions of Mr. Acton? So last question on the motion.
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I think we could ask aye.
Yeah, you didn't ask.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Councillor Evans, you have another?
Yep. I move that council award tender number 2020-06, asphalt resurfacing for various streets to the lowest bidder, McDonald Paving and Construction Limited, in the reduced amount of $350,000, HST included.
I'll second that, your worship.
My motion says 340. Is that a correct figure, or is 350?
The 350,000 is the correct figure, and we will ask the town engineer to explain both that and what the reduced amount means. If it's all right with you.
Mr. Acton?
Thank you, your worship, Councillor Evans, and the rest of council. Yes, there was an error in the motion sheet that went out. It is actually 350,000 in the reduced amount. And just to put some context behind that, the total budget for the gas tax funding program was $405,085 this year. That included all of the resurfacing of various streets, which we discussed to council, but it also included Milner Avenue. If you remember, the paving of Milner Avenue is also being paid for under the gas tax. So the Milner Avenue is estimated at about $57,500 to the paving of that portion of that project. So that did come off, needs to come off of the total dollar value for the paving of various streets, which means that in order to meet our budget, we had to reduce slightly the tender bid that came in from McDonald to the 350,000 in order to be able to do the Milner Avenue project as well.
Any question on that for Mr. Acton?
Councillor Michaud here.
Please go ahead.
So based on the list of streets that we received, how will that affect what we had talked about earlier in regards to the gas tax money?
Thank you, Councillor Michaud. It will be some minor adjustments as we talked before. Most of our this particular tender and our streets are done on a per unit basis, a tonnage basis. So we'll be evaluating the length of the streets and probably making some minor adjustments to the lengths in order to meet our budget requirements. The budget that came in for this, or sorry, the tender price came in at $385,701 for this particular tender. So we're reducing it by what was it, that 20 some or 30 some $1,000s. We're reducing that by, and we'll be managing that by taking a look at the streets and adjusting the lengths of what we are able to do on those streets. The other thing is we also will be evaluating when the tender closes for Milner Avenue, and you know, we're hopeful that the price of the paving will come in close to our budget or under our budget, in which case we would again we'll spend all of that money between Milner and the resurfacing. And I just want to point out, while I have the opportunity, the pricing from last year to this year went up by 10%, and that was another thing that played on the pricing. The pricing last year compared to this year increased by 10%, which with the price of oil going down surprised us a bit.
I have a follow-up question, if I could, Your Worship.
Yes, please.
Just I guess in regards to that, and I think that was one of my concerns. I know that you received four bids. And I think the highest was 458,000, I think 390. When it comes to the work being completed and the current situation we're in, are these companies through this being requested to provide some sort of follow-up to the municipality as to what they're doing in order to be able to conduct the work in a safe, like a social distancing way?
Thank you, Councillor Michaud. Yes, I believe most, if not all of companies who are going to resume their regular business have to put together an operational plan, in which case we'll request that operational plan so we can review that prior to them getting started.
Great, thank you very much.
Excellent. Any other questions on that? Yeah, it's surprising given that I guess the asphalt was built with expensive oil at that time, versus what we're now, they would be paying us to pave the streets. Hopefully the second tender comes in with a different surprise on that. Question on this?
Question.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Evans. That is it.
Yep.
And we now move to Recreation. Councillor O'Neill.
Thank you, Your Worship. The following recreation events have been cancelled or postponed: the 4-on-4 Youth Hockey Challenge, Mountie Day Flag Raising, Anti-Inflammatory Eating Workshop, Recreation and Sport Fair, Poetry Month Open Mic, Operation Beautification, Sports Wall of Fame Induction Ceremony, and the Volunteer Recreation Night. All summer student positions are on hold until further notice. The department has been creating various resources and programs through social media to encourage residents to continue to be active during this difficult time. Initiatives include the Great Sackville Bear Hunt, Sackville Egg Hunt, Adopt a Senior, Front Porch Photography Challenge, Sackville COVID Projects, Still Social Sackville, and the Community Short Story. Sackville, again, is trying to make a lot of noise, and we're inviting everybody on Wednesday evenings at 7 o'clock to go outside their homes, cheer loudly, honk your horns, bang your pots and pans, or any way that you can make a noise, just to say thank you to all those that are working to help keep us well and safe. Staff are currently discussing different options to celebrate Canada Day given to the new directive from the province prohibiting large gatherings. There are still some questions surrounding whether the Sackville Street Chalk Festival and the Sackville Fall Fair will be able to take place, and we are awaiting clarification from the province on those two issues. The department has been assisting the Tanamar COVID-19 task force and will be joining their mental health action group. That is the report of the Parks and Rec. And as to the library report, the library continues to be closed to the public. However, the online loaning program has been enhanced.
Any questions on the report?
No, Your Worship, I have no question, but I just want to say I want to continue to encourage staff for thinking outside the box in these tough times to come up with these type of activities. The people I'm speaking with are well received, and I think they're eager to see more of that outside of the box thinking that's been going on. So thank you.
Thank you for that, Councillor Michaud. That's an excellent point. Everything is different at the moment, isn't it? I just would like to note on the question of the library that all of the council has received a letter that was sent to me this week. I would appreciate your comments on that separately, if you could get back to me on that. Any other questions on the report? Okay, thank you, Councillor O'Neill. And we will move to public safety. Butcher, are you first, Councillor Butcher? Or?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
Thank you, Your Worship. I will be doing the fire section of the report. The Sackville Fire and Rescue responded to 7 calls for service in the month of April. They included 1 commercial fire alarm, 1 garage fire, 1 grass/garage fire, 1 smoke in residence, 1 utility pole fire, 1 rubbish fire, and 1 electrical fire. The calls for service in April 2020 were down by 4 calls compared to the same time in the year before. As it relates to COVID-19 pandemic, enhanced internal measures have been put in place to ensure that our members stay safe and well during these unprecedented times. For example, additional personal protective equipment has been provided for certain emergency responses, and a screening process has been implemented to mitigate the risk of the virus spreading to our firefighters and their families. Our emergency management team has been actively monitoring the COVID-19 pandemic and very closely, and are following the instructions given by the Public Health Agency of Canada and the Office of the Chief Medical Officer of Health of New Brunswick. This said, we're also working closely with our regional coordinator from NBEMO and are following all directives given. The pandemic is not to be taken lightly, and all citizens have a responsibility in mitigating the impact of COVID-19. Preventative measures include self-isolating, social distancing, and frequent hand washing and sanitation, which have been noted in our public service advisories based on the recommendations from the Department of Health. There will be a monitoring going forward, this event for consideration to dispose, let me start that again. There will be a motion coming forward this evening for consideration to dispose of 8 2216 PSI carbon fiber cylinders and 4 Scott 2216 PSI breathing apparatus, which have been taken out of service as these units are no longer required within our operation. Just a reminder, under the Fire Prevention Bylaw number 247, Section 3, rubbish fires are strictly prohibited within town limits. And I'd like to remind all the citizens of Sackville that when having outside fires, they must use an outdoor wood burning fireplace, which is a manufactured non-combustible enclosed container designed to hold a small fire for decorative purposes only. And the size of the wood burning appliance shouldn't be larger than 1 meter in any direction, and it can include a chimney. And as always, we would like to remind our residents that they should have a basic emergency kit prepared to last 72 hours. Things that should be in it: 2 liters of water per person per day, food that won't spoil, energy bars, dried foods, also a manual can opener, flashlight, batteries, and a first aid kit. And that is my section of the report.
Any questions on the fire portion of the report?
Your Worship, I don't have a question, but I'd like to make a statement in relation to the COVID-19, if I may.
Please.
For those people who think they may have symptoms, don't feel like you need to sit back and wait to be an invitation. I personally felt that I had some of the symptoms and decided to turn around and get tested. Now, I'll give you the timeline. I called Friday when I got home from work between 4 and 4:30. I got a call back right away at 8:30 that evening, telling me and asking me for my symptoms, etc. The next morning, I got a call shortly about 8:15, and they asked some more questions. And then I was told that another nurse would call me in about 15 minutes. I received that call, and that she made the appointment for me to go and get tested in Moncton at 10:30 that morning. I went, got the test, and then I came home. I was told to self-isolate ever since Friday night. And then I got a call Sunday morning at about 8:30 giving my results saying that I was negative. That's how fast and efficient these people are. And they're recommending that if you're not sure or if you're feeling bad, go and have the testing done. They would love to have everybody tested because you could be a carrier without any symptoms and not even know it. So I'm recommending to everybody on council, on staff, and the public here, everywhere throughout the province, all across Canada, to turn around and go get tested. It only takes a few minutes. And you'll be surprised at how fast and efficient they are. And I want to thank every one of them for everything they do. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Finney. That was very helpful and useful. Sorry you had to go through it, but thank you for sharing your approach.
I didn't mind, Your Worship. It was worth every minute of my time. And It's better to be safe than sorry.
Thank you for that. Any questions else on the fire portion? If not, Councillor Butcher, you have a motion, or do you wish to wait till the report is complete with fire?
I can do the motion for this now, and then we'll continue on with the police section of the report.
Okay.
Okay. I move that council authorize the disposal of 8 carbon fiber cylinders and 4 SCBA Scott air packs to the Village of Capellet Fire Department in the amount of $10,000 plus HST.
I'll second that.
Councillor Butcher, seconded by Councillor Finney. Was that you?
Yes.
Thank you. We do this every year, but I think it's probably useful to have the chief explain what we do with the unused equipment and why we send it as we do. Mr. Bowser, are you able to speak to this?
Thank you, Your Worship, members of council. Yes, this is the final phase of the disposal of the low pressure 2216. The final inventory has come in to complete our phase projects, and we're looking to dispose of these final assets to take the rest out of inventory. So Capellet Fire has showed an interest to complete their inventory in addition with these extra supplies. So at your wishes, we are looking to dispose of.
Question? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Butcher. We move to RCMP from Councillor O'Neill, please.
Thank you, Your Worship. The last couple of months have seen some increases in calls compared to prior months, but was mainly due as to how the department is generating files in their records management system. Responses as to the number of property crimes such as thefts and break-ins have been very low. However, fraud complaints were higher than normal. Some of these were related to online purchases. Several complaints were investigated and charges were laid. Part of their EMA strategy, the department has increased their visibility and they have increased their patrols in town. This has added an increase in motor vehicle stops and a higher number of traffic charges and warnings were issued. Many were for speeding and also a few suspended drivers were stopped and charged. Several collisions were investigated, but all were property damage with no injuries recorded. Mental health calls for service in the past 2 months saw an increase for RCMP attendance, with most of those being strictly medical needs. As to administration, there have been members transferred to other units, but their positions have been promptly replaced. Training is on hold at this time. However, the CPO hiring process is ongoing. And that's my report.
Any questions, council, on the report on RCMP? I would like to note that, as you know, we have a municipal contract and there's only 7 of them in the province, and we've often felt like the RCMP have not given us the type of attention that our group deserved. But just this week, we received a new draft of a quarterly report that the RCMP are proposing, which is much more specific to the individual contract holders. So I just wanted to add that because it shows that they're starting to respond. We felt that there was some other reasons that they were doing this, but it's now looking like they are giving us our full recognition of the type of contract we have. So when that is finalized, we'll send it through to you, council, for a look. But I'm really pleased to have seen that this week. Any questions or comments on RCMP report for Councillor O'Neill? Hearing none, we are. That is it. You had the one motion for public safety, no motion for RCMP, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we move to policy bylaw, and I think Councillor Butcher, you're back on stage.
Yes, I am. Thank you very much. The report, I forgot to say this for my police report or fire report, but the report for policy bylaw can be found on page 40. We did meet this past month. We tried out using Microsoft Teams on April 29th. So the following is information from that meeting. With a request from local businesses being received regarding 2-hour parking downtown, bylaw number 262, street traffic bylaw, 2-hour parking was reviewed. And this amendment was presented to council at our March 9th regular council meeting, where it received first and second reading, and the third reading of this bylaw will be brought forward tonight. Bylaw number 271, a bylaw relating to establishment code of conduct for elected officials, received third and final reading at the March 9th regular council meeting. Bylaw number 272, formerly 251, a bylaw respecting the procedures and organization of council, received third and final reading at the March 9th council meeting as well. And the clerk's office attended the opening for tender number 2020-04 for one new 2-on-tilt tag trailer with air ramps on March 25th. And that motion, I think, already came forward, did it not? So there is that we reviewed. The clerk's office attended the opening for tender number 2020-06 for the asphalt resurfacing as well. And that motion has already come forward. So there. The clerk's office have been busy providing continued updates on COVID-19 to department heads and staff, as well as working on Microsoft Teams. And that is my report.
Thank you, Councillor Butcher. Any questions on the policy bylaw? Failing that, you have one motion. Is there, you want to put that in context as well after you're done with it?
So you'd like me to read it first, yes? And then we'll do the context?
Sure.
Okay. I move that council do third and final reading to bylaw number 262A, a bylaw to amend bylaw number 262, a bylaw to regulate street traffic.
Moved by Councillor Butcher.
Deputy Mayor, I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Seconder. Councillor Butcher, you'd like to put that into context?
So this is the bylaw for the parking, yes?
Right.
Yes, so we had several business owners come forward and say that they were not pleased with the 2-hour parking, and we're wanting that to be extended to a further amount. So that's what we reviewed the bylaw and decided to move it to to a 3-hour parking and to not charge on weekends and on statutory holidays.
Thank you. Question? Will I call the question?
Question.
All those in favor, please.
Aye.
Opposed? That motion is carried. Thank you, Councillor Butcher. We have personnel. Councillor Evans, is that you?
That is, Your Worship. Reports on page 42 of the package, and as with Councillor Butcher, the Personnel Liaison Group met using Teams on April 15th, and it seemed to work quite well. The following is an overview of the activities during the past month. During the pay period of April, there were 37 permanent employees and 1 temporary employee. And staff changes that have taken place since the last report. The town welcomed Rob McLean as our Public Works Manager, Superintendent. He started on March 30th and will take over from Barry Hicks, who returned on an interim basis during the hiring process and transition period. Kathy Best has been mentioned before, but when you work for 40 years with one employer, you should get mentioned more than once. She retired on March 27th, and we wish her all the best in her retirement. And council concluded this Chief Administrative Officer recruitment process with KBRS effective April 7th with the appointment of Mr. Jamie Burke. On May 1st, 2020 marked the official retirement date of Phil Handrahan of the town's as the town's CAO. And this report was written by the new CAO, and he says, "We want to thank Phil for his many contributions during his 7 years with the town," and I've already echoed that. Hiring for the Civic Center attendant, Public Works Secretary position, and summer students are all currently on hold until normal operations can resume. Town Hall continues to be closed to the public until further notice. Our unionized employees are working 2 split shifts of 1 week on and 1 week off, and the organization is focusing on essential services only. In addition, managers are alternating working remotely. The recruitment process for the CPO vacancy, again, as Councillor Butcher mentioned, is currently ongoing. And the grievance on a statutory pay issue has been assigned a date for arbitration in 2021. And that's my report, unless the CAO would like to elaborate perhaps a little bit on how we're handling staffing.
Yeah,
Sorry to put you on the spot.
I can certainly do that, Councillor Evans, and Your Worship, if that would be useful.
Certainly.
I think we've, as Councillor Evans alluded to, we've implemented, I guess, I've heard reference to the two platoons. I kind of like that that analogy where I guess we did this for strategic reasons and to help protect not just the health and safety of the workforce, but also the health and well-being of our essential services that we need to deliver. So, in order to reduce cross-contamination between the workforce, we have one set of essential services in, and while the other is home. And then after a week, we change. The other platoon comes in. The workplace is sanitized, and we avoid cross-contaminating those 2 sets of employees. And the reason being, of course, is that in the event that one of the employees were to test positive for COVID-19, if we were all in the workplace at the same time, that could potentially shut down the entire workforce, which would then put us in a compromised position to be able to deliver essential services such as water testing, lift station inspections, payroll, and the list goes on. So that's worked extremely well. And again, I can't say thanks enough to the employees for their cooperation and dedication, and everybody being a team player.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Burke. I believe we have one.
Sorry, could I just say, it might be worth pointing out that the shift that is at home are on call. They are and could be called in, right? I mean, one of the challenges is with not having as much staff. If there were a need to get people to come out, they would be on call. If we laid people off, they wouldn't be able to be called in. So that this is a way to balance the safety of our workers and the public and still provide the essential services that we have to provide.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Councillor Evans. That's exactly it.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Thank you, Mr. Burke. I think that wraps up personnel. There is no motion attached to that.
That's
So
correct.
we'll move to corporate projects. Deputy Mayor, are you doing this one?
Yes, Your Worship, thank you. The Strategic Affairs Liaison Group did not meet in March, but we did get an email update on activities on April 16th. The month of April and the end of March have been dominated by COVID-19 pandemic problems, and the following initiatives have been priorities since circumstances evolved. Communications have been a significant responsibility since COVID-19. And to date, 7 public service announcements have been released, along with various other communications pertaining to the waterfall park trails, disinfectant wipes, our heavy garbage collection, social distancing tips, and several others. We've also been posting the PSAs to our downtown kiosks. Internal communications have been circulated to our employees as our workplace has also had to adapt to new procedures and operations. We have assisted the mayor with several video messages, all of which have been well received. Given the amount of information that's being distributed from the federal and provincial governments on COVID-19, we have limited our own corporate materials so that we do not overwhelm people, but have been doing so as needed. We have also made a point to make sure our own procedures, cancellations, etc., are easy to find, including information for the local business community on financial assistance provided by the federal and provincial governments. Information from local businesses on adapted business practices and hours of operation, and information for residents on cancellations, bill payments, etc. All of this information is found on the town's homepage of the website. And here I think I can add personally that I've received about a dozen calls and emails that wanted me to express people's congratulations to the people who are setting up the websites and handling communications. They would say they thought it's been very, very well done. Okay, managers have been meeting regularly where we receive a federal, provincial, and local updates on the evolving pandemic, reviewing our own monitoring for compliance adherence to the state of emergency as it pertains to social distancing in and on our parks and trails, staff scheduling, operations, issues and changes, and communication needs. Staff have also been attending weekly EMO teleconference updates with the fire chief, along with any other EMO calls. Economic development organizations across southeast New Brunswick are working together on an economic recovery plan as the region prepares to emerge from the COVID epidemic. The Chamber of Commerce for Greater Moncton, 3Plus Corporation, are leading a group of stakeholders that include the City of Moncton, Ville de Dieppe, the Town of Riverview, the Town of Sackville, ACOA, Working NB, and Opportunities New Brunswick on the plan. The new Southeast Economic Recovery Task Force has been meeting virtually, and to prepare for gradual resumption of the economy, the group has now turned its attention to the recovery phase. While the COVID-19 measures have been the priority since the pandemic began, we're doing several other things. Work continues on our marketing plan with Portfolio. Staff had a virtual meeting with the consultants on April 7th, and we should have a first draft review in the coming weeks. They still want to present a final document to council once operations are back to normal. Our annual resident survey closed with 259 responses, up from 159 last year. And the results have been analyzed, and an infographic will be released when normal operations resume. The town CN Legacy Tree Planting Project will proceed this spring. In late 2019, CN gifted 100 trees to the town last fall, part of their 150-year celebrations. The contractor can continue working with social distancing practices and will be taking care of all utilities located after staff identify planting areas. And that's the report, Your Worship. There are no motions, and I will let Mr. Burke answer any questions you may have.
Any questions on the report for corporate affairs?
Councillor Evans here. I have a comment. I was really pleased to see the increase of 100 respondents to the resident survey. That's pretty significant. I hope that they are, the majority of them continue to be positive, but it's important to get that kind of feedback.
Hearing no other questions. We will close the corporate affairs and strategic development. Is there any new business that is placed? I don't think we have any agreed. Is that correct? Just before we reach the next stage, I do want to make a couple of comments. One is I was expecting a few more errors than what we ran into. Technological parts here. Thank you, Mr. Beal, for catching them very early on. One of the things that this software doesn't allow is us to do a question and answer or some interaction with others as we would normally do in a real meeting. We're still working on whether that might be feasible or not. Failing that, we're looking for other ways in which we can maintain a direct relationship with people who have questions. In the short term here, if you have any questions, if anybody's watching this now, please email the clerk whatever your question is for the evening, and we'll make sure that we get back to you with an answer as quickly as we possibly can. Just one last thing is I would like to note that we haven't had a meeting since the unfortunate tragedy in Nova Scotia, and I just want this town to know that our town has expressed condolences to the local governments of the area. And as you may know, we have been flying the Nova Scotia flags at all our facilities and had the town hall gaze in the blue lights appropriate for Nova Scotia over the last week. So our hearts are with them. Tough to see that happen to our neighbors, and they are resilient, and they're coming out of this, and we will always help them, support them as they go through this. So I'm not going to open it up. There'll be too many of you who want to talk about this whole exercise.
Yeah.
So I am prepared to take a motion to adjourn.
Councilor Keller, I move we adjourn.
Councilor Finney, I second it.
Seconded. Sorry, who seconded that?
Bruce Finney.
Councilor Finney, thank you very much. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This motion is carried, and thank you all for our test here tonight.
Yeah, well done.
Right on. Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Okay.